Savitri. The story of Savitri and Satyavan appears in the Mahabharata. Long ago, in the kingdom of Madra, there ruled a king called Asvapati. He was a righteous king. He had many wives, but no children. When his minister asked him to pray to the goddess Savitri, who fulfills many wishes, the king listened. He went to the temple and made fire offerings to the goddess under the direction of the priest. The king's sincerity, as he begged for a child, impressed goddess Savitri. Upon the final offering to the fire, goddess Savitri appeared and said, "O king, you are pure of heart. Your wish will be fulfilled." People waited for months for the arrival of the baby. Finally, the welcome news arrived. The king was blessed with a baby girl. The whole kingdom rejoiced. The king distributed clothes and jewels to the poor in celebration of his good fortune. The child was named Savitri after the goddess. Savitri was beautiful. The king and the queen were very happy, and the palace was filled with the child's laughter. As the Princess Savitri grew up, she came to look like the goddess in her beauty. She also became a highly accomplished musician, as well as a philosopher and scholar. She loved her father very much. She was his only child. She hated the thought of having to marry someday and leave the home she loved. When she shared her thoughts with her father, the king replied, trying to hide his own similar feelings, "You don't need to worry about that now, my child." Savitri's beauty and intellect continued to blossom. With her breathtaking beauty and intellect, no one dared to propose marriage to her. They only admired her from a distance. The king realized that the time had come to look for a suitable partner for his daughter. He sent his messengers to various kings with eligible sons. But each one declined, worried that his son would be no match for this divinely beautiful and talented girl. It was a time when India was different from the way it is today. Women were quite independent, but yet traditional. Although their marriages were usually arranged by their parents, sometimes a woman was allowed to choose her own. When the minister suggested to the king that he let Savitri choose her own husband, the king liked the idea and called for Savitri. "I do not wish to marry, father," said Savitri. "Why do you want to send me away?" The king replied with a heavy heart, "Savitri, it is said that a father who does not give his daughter to marriage is a sinner. Please help me to do the right thing." "All right, father. I shall do what you say," responded Savitri. It was arranged that Savitri would go on a trip through many kingdoms, and the minister would be a part of her entourage. "Look for a husband who will be your equal," requested the king. Savitri's reluctance began to melt as she contemplated all the new people and places she would see. One day, while passing through a forest, she saw a young hermit walking by the side of the road. Savitri's eyes fell on the young man's face, and she found herself drawn to him. "Who is he?" she thought. She knew she would not forget his face. "How can I meet him again?" The next day, the royal party arrived at Varanasi. The king welcomed the party and requested Savitri to choose any of his sons, who were all strong and brave. Savitri did not reply. Her heart was still lingering over the memory of the young hermit. How can I meet him again? For Savitri, the chance meeting with the stranger had dimmed the rest of the world. The minister asked, "Have you made your choice, Savitri?" "No, let us go back home," Savitri said quietly. "What kind of a man do you want for a husband?" inquired the minister. Savitri was in deep thought. What could she say? She could only think of the hermit, a man who had chosen to leave society in pursuit of God, and whose name she didn't even know. Hearing no response from Savitri, the minister decided that the royal party should return. As the chariot passed through the forest on the way back home, Savitri sensed that she would meet the hermit again soon. Her heart began to throb. She asked the minister to stop when she saw a cottage nearby. "Could you fetch some water? I am thirsty," requested Savitri, as she anxiously looked around, hoping to see the hermit again. Her hopes were fulfilled when she heard a warm, youthful voice seeking permission from the minister. "May I give some water to the princess?" Savitri thanked the goddess for fulfilling her wishes. When the hermit was gone, Savitri could not wait to disclose her feelings to the minister. She couldn't just leave without finding out who the hermit was. She asked the minister to find out. The minister pleasantly agreed and left. Soon the minister returned and reported to Savitri, "He is no ordinary hermit. He is Satyavan, son of an exiled king." Then the minister inquired, "Is he your choice?" Savitri bashfully acknowledged that he was. The minister was pleased that the trip was not in vain. At last, Savitri returned to her father's palace. The king came out to greet her. "Have you made your choice?" the king asked. Savitri modestly allowed the minister to speak for her. The minister said, "She has chosen Satyavan, the son of an exiled king. He now lives in the forest as a hermit." The conversation was interrupted when the king was informed that sage Narad had arrived to see him. He rushed to receive Narad and shared with him the news that Savitri had chosen Satyavan as her husband. Narad responded with a sad face, not approving the choice. The king was curious. They both took a seat, and then Narad explained. Satyavan's father, Dumatsena, was the king of Salva. After he became blind, he lost his kingdom, and now he lives in exile. Narad hesitated to say more. Impatient, Asvati pressed, "But is he not noble? Is he not brave? Just because he is a hermit is not a reason to reject Savitri's choice." Narad then broke his silence. "O king, there is no one more worthy than Satyavan. He is the noblest and bravest of all. But he is destined to die exactly 1 year from today." "That means my daughter will be a widow in 1 year?" asked the king with alarm. "Yes, if Savitri marries Satyavan," said Narad with a firm voice. Asvati was very upset and called for Savitri. "I cannot agree to let you marry Satyavan, as he is going to die soon." "But father, I have already chosen Satyavan with my heart. Now, how could I marry anyone else? Appealed Savitri. Narad asked the king to accept. Your daughter has made a brave choice. Bless her, O king, but let no one else know the secret that I have revealed. The king accepted, and the bridal party reached the forest the next day. The hermits came forward to receive the party. When the blind king, Dyumatsena, asked hesitatingly to Asvapati, Your child has lived in wealth. How can she be happy here? King Asvapati calmly replied, filled with contentment, Please do not worry. She has chosen something greater than wealth. Her friends dressed Savitri beautifully, and Savitri looked forward to the happy days she would spend with Satyavan, even if only for 1 year. That night, chanting the sacred mantra of marriage, Asvapati gave away his daughter Savitri to Satyavan. The bride and the groom walked around the sacred fire and became united as a wedded couple, husband and wife. Then it was time to bid farewell. The king blessed his only child, dearer than his own life. Be proud of your choice and be happy. As soon as her parents left, Savitri took off all her jewels and fancy clothes and dressed herself in clothes made of bark. Why did you take off your jewels? Asked Satyavan. You are a hermit, responded Savitri. I am your wife. How else should I be dressed? Then Satyavan took out a beautiful ring he had kept for her. You must wear this. It is made of a special stone. Satyavan said, You can see your beautiful face in it. For 1 year, Savitri and Satyavan led a wonderful life, devoted to each other and happy. She never shared her terrible secret with anyone, as requested by Narad. She was also extremely devoted to her parents-in-law and looked after them like a dutiful daughter. But she never forgot the approaching dreadful event and counted each day she had remaining. Much too quickly the year went by. 3 days before the fateful day, Savitri began fasting. Her father-in-law wondered, why this severe penance? On the last night, she could not sleep. Only one thought kept on haunting her. Tomorrow, my husband is fated to die. What shall I do? In the morning, when Satyavan was getting ready to go to the forest to chop wood, Savitri came running. Please, let me go with you today. Why, Savitri? Asked Satyavan. Please don't say no, said Savitri. I just want to. Satyavan agreed, and he was happy to have her company. But you must wear your anklets, said Satyavan in a caring voice. I want to hear your footsteps. Savitri agreed, and together they started towards the forest. Savitri's heart was full of anguish, yet she kept a smile on her face. She hid her agony in order to keep Satyavan happy. Her heart ached more with every step. What is going to happen to him today? She thought fearfully. When they reached the heart of the forest, Satyavan asked Savitri to pluck fruits while he collected firewood. Suddenly, Satyavan's body was bathed in perspiration, and a terrible pain shot through his limbs. Falling to the ground, Satyavan shouted, Savitri! Savitri was momentarily paralyzed with fear. Then she ran towards Satyavan as he moaned, Savitri, my limbs are losing all sensation. Let me sleep for a while. Soon, Satyavan's body became still. So, this is the end, Savitri said to herself mournfully. The forest around her had darkened. A heavy stillness filled the air. Savitri lifted her head and saw a dark figure clad in red with a crown shining on his head approaching her. Savitri's grief had numbed her fear. "Who are you?" she asked boldly. "Haven't you guessed?" replied the approaching figure. "I am Yama, the god of death. I have come for Satyavan's soul." Soon, Yama took out a small noose, pulled out Satyavan's soul from his body, and started to go back. Savitri watched as Satyavan's face assumed the stillness of a corpse. Savitri said with grief, "My beloved husband is dead. I have nothing left now in life. Let me follow Yama." She chose to follow Yama from a distance. The tall, soft grass of the forest muffled the sound of her anklets. Soon they came upon a stream. Here, too, the water softened the sound of her footsteps. As Yama climbed up a steep hill, Savitri followed. The hard ground made the sound of the anklets more audible, filling the air with a mournful chiming. The sound of the anklets reached Yama's ears. The god of death paused to listen. "Someone seems to be following me," said Yama. He turned around and saw Savitri. "Why are you following me?" Yama asked. "Where my husband goes, I too must go," said Savitri calmly and confidently. "No, you cannot go to the land of the dead. Satyavan was no ordinary person. He was pure and righteous. He will find a high place, and you must accept your fate and go back to the mortal world." "Lord Yama, all reveres you, but you are taking away my happiness. I cannot go back to my mortal world without Satyavan," said Savitri mournfully. "I fully sympathize with you, Savitri," said Lord Yama, "but death cannot be reverted. The wise accept this, but I am pleased with your courage and devotion. You may ask for any boon, and I will fulfill it, except the life of your husband." "Please, give my father-in-law's eyesight and his lost kingdom," requested Savitri. Yama was astonished that Savitri did not ask anything for herself. He agreed to fulfill his boon and asked Savitri to return home. But Savitri continued to follow him. Climbing up the steep hill was painful, as the sharp rocks made her feet begin to bleed. Yama saw she was still following him and again strongly objected. Savitri pleaded, "Lord Yama, in life and death, I am wedded to my husband. I stay beside him wherever he goes. I do not have a life without him." Yama's steps slowed down. "Savitri, I am pleased with your devotion, but death follows life for each individual. I will come for you when your turn comes. But before I finally disappear, I will fulfill 2 more wishes for you. Accept the life of your husband." Savitri said, "Then please grant my father many children, as I was his only child." "Your second wish is granted. Now tell me, what is your last wish?" said Yama impatiently. "Grant me 100 children from Satyavan, O Lord," she said. Yama was taken aback. She did not ask for her husband's life, But I cannot fulfill my promise without releasing Satyavan's soul. Savitri, your devotion is unequaled, and so also your wits, said Yama with a smile. I give you back your husband's life. Saying so, Yama disappeared, and Savitri ran back with great joy to the place where Satyavan's body was at rest. Soon she reached the spot. Satyavan was lying motionless, just as she had left him. Savitri took Satyavan's head on her lap and waited for his body to come to life. Satyavan began to breathe slowly. Then his eyes opened. He saw Savitri's eager eyes fixed on him. How long have I been sleeping? Satyavan inquired. It is getting late, my love. Let us go home, responded Savitri. Soon the couple started for their way home. Savitri's heart was filled with joy, but she did not share with Satyavan her experience with Yama. Back at home, Dyumatsena had recovered his eyesight. Before long, his men came back to report that the enemy had been defeated, and his subjects were awaiting his return to the palace. When Satyavan came back with Savitri, he was overjoyed to see his father had regained his eyesight as well as his kingdom. Savitri quietly thanked Lord Yama for keeping all his promises. Savitri, you came to a poor home, said the exiled king. Now you shall sit on a throne and your sons will be princes. The exiles started for their kingdom, and it was a joyous journey for all. In the course of time, Savitri's father, Asvapati, fathered many children. Satyavan became the king, inheriting the throne from his father. Savitri, his queen, bore many children from Satyavan, just as Lord Yama had promised. Savitri and Satyavan lived happily for many years. And when Yama came finally to take them to the land of the dead, this time they went together without any fear or sorrow.